So, the Miami Heat were able to knock off the New York Knicks yesterday in a 108-101 victory. There's a lot of talking points about this game. Jimmy Butler's injury, the Knicks struggle from three, Gabe Vincent's pretty good performance, Kyle Lowry's pretty good performance, RJ Barrett's pretty good starting performance because he did not end the game good at all. But for me, the one thing I can take away is that New York Knicks are going to be fine in this series. I'm going to tell you why. There's a lot to take away from the New York Knicks' pretty mediocre performance at home in last night's loss. First things first, they were without their all-star in Julius Randle. They shot just 20% from three. The Heat made 9 more free throws than them. Jalen Brunson didn't play all too well, and considering all of that, they only lost by 7 points. And then there's other things you can add. Like I said earlier, RJ Barrett did not play well in the second half of this game. Josh Hart, Emmanuel Quigley, and Quinn Grimes combined for just 23 points. There's a lot of things that the New York Knicks could have done more in this game. I think they'll fix those issues for game 2. Like, I'm confident in the New York Knicks role players to step it up in game 2. And I'm not so confident for the Miami Heat's role players to keep playing how good they've been playing. The Miami Heat's role players weren't really asked to do too much. It was just hit timely baskets. Like I said earlier, Gabe Vincent had a great game. 20 points and 5 assists came from him on 5 made threes, his last 3 being a big shot. He played pretty good defense. He was a plus 11 in the box score. There was also Kyle Lowry, who looked like Toronto Raptors Kyle Lowry. In just a shade under 30 minutes of play, he had 18 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 blocks. He hit 3 threes this game, was methodical on offense, was tenacious on defense. I mean, when Jimmy Butler got hurt, Kyle Lowry kind of took over and was able to slow the Heat down, you know, just help them keep their posture and ultimately win this game. Bam Adebayo was solid in his minutes. Kevin Love had 4 assists this game. I mean, his outlet passes are truly one of a kind. Max Strus pitched in 2 threes. And off the bench, Caleb Martin, we got to highlight him and his defense this game. It was very, very good to watch. And ultimately, that was enough for the Miami Heat. On the Knicks side, another player I want to highlight is Obi Toppin. Plays to Julius Randle. Obi Toppin played well, but Randle brings another dynamic. Julius Randle has much better on-ball abilities. He's much better at drawing fouls. He's a better rebounder. He's a better playmaker. I mean, in a lot of areas, it's pretty much night and day. And you can talk about Julius Randle's struggles in the playoffs and this and that and the third, but you talk about the first round of the playoffs, Julius Randle was matched up against a Defensive Player of the Year finalist in Evan Mobley. And that's not to downplay Bam Adebayo at all, because we know Bam Adebayo to be a great defender. Because pulling Bam Adebayo at the paint, you get past him, and who's the backline defense? Is it Kevin Love or Caleb Martin? I don't know how much of an effect they're going to have against Julius Randle, as opposed to once you pulled Evan Mobley out of the paint, it was Jarrett Allen. And against the Heat this year, Julius Randle has been good. In 4 games played, he's averaging 21 points per game, and he's shooting 49% from field and 41% from 3. And in one of those games, he got injured in like 15 minutes of play, so can you even really count that? And then on the flip side, talking about the Miami Heat again, the biggest concern for this entire series is going to be Jimmy Butler's injury. Jimmy Butler has been a man on a mission in this year's NBA playoffs, running through anyone who's standing in his way. But late in game 1, he sustained an ankle injury going up for a shot against Josh Hart, and it looked pretty bad. Now, Jimmy Butler was able to finish the game, but he was mainly standing in the corner on both sides of the ball. He was limping a lot, and his status for game 2 is up in the air. As crazy as a player as Jimmy Butler is, this injury is definitely going to affect him for the rest of this series. It's going to affect his offensive ability, it's going to affect his defensive ability, and it's going to affect his aggression. And I'm pretty sure the New York Knicks are going to involve him a lot more on the defensive side of the ball and really take advantage of that injury. With Tyler Hero out and Bam Adebayo's offense not being as good as people probably wanted it to be, I just don't think the Heat have the offensive firepower to overcome Jimmy's injury concerns. And look, man, the New York Knicks have had their back against the walls for a lot of this season. A lot of people, including myself, I'll admit to that, have had their doubts on this Knicks team. Everybody thought that the Cavs were going to win in round 1, and they silenced everybody up, not only beating the Cavs, but they beat them in 5 games. And now after game 1, you can kind of sense the same vibe. I think the Knicks will bounce back, and I think ultimately they'll take game 2 in a convincing fashion and ultimately win this series. But for me, this New York Knicks basketball team goes beyond that. After this series, they'll face the winner of the Celtics-Sixers series, and I think whoever they play in that, they're going to give them some fits. Even though the offense has been poor so far in this playoffs, they have some really like underrated aspects that make good basketball teams great. That's offensive rebounding, that's dribble penetration, and that's tough shot makers. Like, I honestly believe that this New York Knicks team can compete with any of the remaining playoff teams. And that's both in the Eastern and Western Conference. I mean, this is a relatively young team. They're hungry and they just won't back down from anyone. The NBA is just better when the Knicks are good. And this could be the first time in a long time that the New York Knicks make some real noise in the playoffs.